I'm going to make a table saw sled. Want to watch? G'day all, welcome back to Built by Chris. In this episode I'm going to build a table saw sled. Over the years I've had a number of table saws and I've built sleds for all of them and they always came in handy, so I think it's about time I built one for this table saw. Now the materials I'm going to use for this table saw sled is just 16mm MDF. I bought two sheets at 600 by 1200mm. Here they are here. And I bought two sheets so I could rip one of them down to make the fences. I've got a lot of offcuts but nothing that really suits. For the runners I went to TimberCon and they sell these. They're aluminium, they've got those little nylon bushes in here that you adjust and they fit in the table saw sled in your miter slots, and I'll tell you, once you've adjusted them there's absolutely no play at all, so I think they'll be perfect for the job. So maybe I should just stop talking about it and get on with the job. So let's go and have a look and see how I make a table saw sled for my table saw. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these sliders into my miter slots. Now I've got some washers here because I just want to raise them a little bit above the top of the table saw top, so that they're sitting just a little bit proud. There we go. Now I've gone ahead earlier and I've just put some double-sided tape on these and I've marked them left and right so I know which one goes in because I've already pre-sized them. So let me just peel off this double-sided tape backing. Okay. And I'm going to line it up so that it's flush with the front of the table saw. Here comes the second one. Just pop that in there. There we go, nice and flush now. Alright. Here's my base. Now I'm just going to bring this over so that it's more or less in line. So there it is there. I just want it hanging over one side, towards one side, so that I can cut longer pieces if I need to. Here we go. And I'll drop it down. There we go. Beautiful. Lift it up. And there we have the two sliders in place. And I'll pre-drill and put some screws in there. Alright, got me drill. Let's just pre-drill these a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way through. Just put like a pilot hole in there. Now I've got some screws here that come with the sliders. So let me just pop those in. And next thing I'm going to do is make the fences. Now I've got a piece of MDF sitting there ready to go. All I want to do is I want to make sure how high the blade is going to be. I'm going to take away the 16mm depth and that'll determine how high my fences are going to be. I've already gone ahead and measured everything up. I'm going to cut them all down to 85mm wide. I'll rip these boards down to 85mm wide and then do a bit of a glue up. So let's go ahead and do that. Got my pieces cut here, got my glue ready, my spreader, and I'm going to spread it out. So here we go. Alright, now I'm just going to line it up. And I've got my brad nailer here. I'm going to pop a couple of brads in just to hold it all nice and steady so it doesn't move. Alright, I think that'll just about do it. Now for the second one. I know you get some people that put grains of salt in here to stop it all sliding around, but I reckon a brad nail does the job just as well. And the size brad nails that I'm using, it's not going to make any difference. Alright, got them both glued up now. And I'm just going to pop it all into clamps, put a little bit of extra pressure on there. Yeah, I'm not too fussed about the squeeze out because I'm going to run it through the table saw anyway just to square it all up. As long as I don't stick the two of them together, everything will be fine. Alright, so I'll just let that dry. Then we'll come back to it shortly. Well, I ended up leaving it overnight to dry, so let's take it out of the clamps and see what they look like, eh? And they're not stuck together. Hey, bonus straight off the bat. Okay, now I'm literally going to take just a half a tooth off it each pass. I'm going to do one pass on one side, one pass on the other, and then I'll take it over to my miter saw and clean up these ends. So let's set that up now. And that's two. Oh, that's nice and smooth. Alright, I'm over here at my chop saw station now, and I'm just going to square up the ends and then I can attach them to the sled. Again, I'm only just taking literally a shaving cut off. Okay, one little detail that I forgot to put on my back fence. This is my back fence, this is the one I'm going to be registering all my work up against, is I didn't put a little chamfer across the bottom for dust relief. So let me get that done now. Okay, I've just tilted the blade over to 45 degrees, moved my fence over, locked it down. Let's run it through and see what we get. And I reckon that's going to do the job. This first fence, or the front fence, I'll put that on first. That doesn't need to be square or accurate or anything like that, because it's literally just there to hold the sled together. So let's let me get my tools and I'll put that on. I'm all set up now to put the fences on. Okay, this is my back fence, or the front fence, whichever way you're looking at it. Now I've made, I don't know if the camera will pick it up here, but I've made two little tick marks where the blade's going to be coming through. So that tells me where I should keep away with my screws. So just lining it up roughly. I'm going to put a bit of glue on this one. The back fence, like I said, doesn't need to be accurate. So I'm just going to put a bit of glue so this one stays, and I'll clamp it down and put some screws in. Alright, clamp down, holding it nicely. It's all flush at the back here. And I'll turn it over and put a couple of screws in it. Now, don't want to go in between the lamination because that might separate it. So I've got to come in about 8mm or 24mm, I think it is. So let me go get a tape measure. Alright, got my little square here. Now 1/2 when I went to school was 8, so let me set that to 8. I'll just run a pencil line so I'll know where to drill to. It doesn't have to be everywhere. Here's where my kerf line's going to be, so keep away from that. Now it's not like I'm going to put in 30,000 screws, but I'm just going to put in enough to make sure it holds. So let's put in a couple now. Typical. Now I've got to make sure it's sitting below the bottom so it doesn't scratch the top of my table saw. So that's down, that's in. Let's put a few more in. Okay, first thing I'm going to do before I put this back fence on is I'm going to run the saw blade or the table saw blade through here. Just raise it up and score it so I know where the blade's going to come through, and I'm going to stop it probably about 30mm before the end, and that'll set me up for my next step. So let's do that now. Okay, well, you live and learn. Should have taken the riving knife off first before I started that cut, but anyway, there it is. Alright, riving knife is out now. Let's try that again. Okay, much better. Drop that blade down again. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick this ruler in here, and I have somewhere a couple of wedges. And then I'll stick in there so it's wedged up nice and tight. Then I'll get my framing square, put up against it, and my fence. Making sure my little bevel's to the front. Now I'm only going to screw it on one side here and here, so that I can then do William Ing's famous 5-cut method to get it absolutely dead accurate. So let's put that up now. Okay, that looks pretty good. Alright, I'll back it off, get a couple of clamps on it, and then I'll put some screws in. Alright, set myself up here now to do the 5-cut test. I've cut up just a piece of melamine. It's square, well, the measurements are consequential. I've also put a spirit level on the back of the fence to keep it nice and rigid so it doesn't flex, because there's no screws in the middle here at the moment. All I've got is a screw here and a screw at the other end. That's where my pivot point is. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run this board through with the 5-cut method to see how far I'm out. So first thing I'm going to do is mark 1. That's going to be my first cut. 2, 3, 4, and the 5th cut is on the same side as the first cut. I'm going to mark the top A and the bottom B. And now let's go through and make the cuts. Okay, there's the piece I've cut off. That's what I'm going to measure, and that's what's going to tell me how far out I am. Alright, there's the piece that I cut, the piece that I cut off. I'm going to measure this now. Now here's my calipers. I'm going to zero those out. Now William Ing suggests that I do it on a flat surface so the reading is nice and accurate. So let's open these up and close that off. Okay, and that reads 21.82. Take that out, stick it around the other way, pop that in there. Now that reads 20.31. So I'm going to minus that. Okay. So 21.82 minus 20.31 equals 1.51. 1.51. Now I divide that by 4. So divide that by 4. And that gives me 0.3775, and I'll divide that by the length of this. There's my tape measure. That measures 285. So divide that by 285. Divide that by 285, gives me a reading of 0.0013245 recurring, whatever. Okay, and I've got to multiply that by the 2 screws in my bench. So bear with me just a sec and I'll go and measure those up. Okay, that distance is 1020. So multiplied by 1020 gives me 1.3510. That's the distance I'm out over the distance. So I'll set myself up again. I'll get my feeler gauges out right here. I'll set up 1.351 or nearest to, and we'll try again. Okay, the other thing that William Ing suggests is cutting a block like this with a point on it so that you've got an absolute reference point to put it up against. Okay, which I've done. There it is there. All I'm going to do is clamp this onto here so it doesn't move. That's tied up against the fence now. Now because the number is a positive number, that means my fence is too high. I have to pull it back. So I'm going to find 1.3510. Alright, there's my feeler gauges. I've got a 1mm and a 0.35, which is almost dead on. So what I'll do now is I'll take those two, I'll undo the screw that's holding this in at the moment, let me undo this screw now. Okay, so now I'll move the fence away, bearing in mind it was too high to begin with. So now I've got to push it away. So now the feeler gauges come into play. Pop those in and I'll press that up against. There we go. Now I've got to drill another hole. You can't put it in the same hole. Which I've just done. Pop in the new screw. There we go. Now I'll go through the 4-cut method again, because I've moved it away exactly that distance. So I'll go through that 4-cut method again. Okay, I've gone through the 5-cut method again. I've readjusted the fence. I'm not going to show you every time I do it because it's bloody boring. But here are my measurements now. Okay, so we've got 20.30 on one side. We've got 19.71. So let's do the calculation on that. So 20.30 minus 19, oops, 20.3 minus 19.71. That gives us 0.59, so 0.59, divide that by 4, divide that by 4, gives me 0.1475, divide that by the length of my cut, which is 280 exactly. 280, so divide that by 280, gives me 0.00052. Multiply that by my screws and my pivot points, and I've already gone ahead and measured that, and it was 1050. So I'll write that down, 1050. Multiply that by 10, oh you knucklehead, 0.00052, multiply that by 1050. And that gives me an overall error of 0.546. Now what I'm told is that error is over the distance of all these cuts. So the distance of all these cuts was just on a metre, because you're looking at 280, let's add it up, shall we? I've got a calculator. 280 times 2 plus 180 times 2 equals 920. So that's a half a mil, 0.5 of a millimetre over 920 millimetres. Now I don't know about you guys, but to me that is more than close enough. I don't need to get any closer than that. I mean, I don't do any fine furniture, so I'm happy with those measurements. So now I'll go through and I'll screw down that that back fence so it is not going to move. And there it is. Tablesaw sled is done. When I say done, there's still a little few things I've got to do to it, like round over the edges, just to make it a little bit easier to use. I'm going to maybe put a handle on the front, because I noticed when I had my spirit level clamped to the front of it, It was a lot easier to push and pull back this way. I'm going to make the miter part of it so I can cut my miters nice and accurately. So there's a few little things to do, but the main part of the sled is done, and it's fairly accurate. I mean, 1/2 mil over nearly a metre is pretty accurate for me, and I'm happy with that. So if you like what you saw, leave a comment below, subscribe if you like, and I'll see you all next time. Bye for now.